When you start decluttering, do you feel like you're losing a piece of who you are? For many people, the answer is yes. They spend months, if not years, searching for a solution to their clutter and the immediate fear of losing themselves, of losing who they are in the process of letting go. Now, some people will overcome this obstacle without hesitation, but there are many people who would genuinely struggle with this and end up stuck or developing a habit of clutter shifting instead. Now, I can confidently tell you that I was the latter of the two. And if you're not sure what this clutter shifting thing is all about, it's the habit of shifting your clutter from one spot to another while being organized in your approach. So it's shifting boxes from room to room, closet to closet, shelf to shelf. And to be honest, this is a popular solution many people turn to when decluttering. However, the kicker is that they are usually unaware of what they're doing until it becomes glaringly obvious. Again, this was me. But this habit is quite easy to break as long as we separate our identity from our stuff. Now, you might be thinking everything you just explained sounds exactly like me, Ron. And if so, bingo. That's the response I was looking for, because this conversation is for you. You see, in the first couple of years of my decluttering journey, I felt the feelings you're experiencing. Whenever I would declutter, I felt like I was losing a piece of who I was. And so I relied on other methods like clutter shifting instead of letting go. And this is because my identity was so closely tied to my possessions that it created a barrier to letting go, which took some intentional effort to overcome. So I want to offer you a different perspective, some advice I wish someone gave me sooner, so you can also overcome this obstacle and continue to make progress on your journey. Let's dive in. Tell me if this sounds like you. I want to be more minimal. I want to hone in on what I want, use, and get rid of the rest. I want to make space for hobbies and family time. I want to put my values first. But the thing that's holding me back is a fear of losing my identity. I like looking around and seeing me in my home. Everything feels like a reflection of myself. And I fear that I will feel lonely or empty if I walk into a home filled with less. I don't want to feel like I'm living in a stranger's house. Does any of this reflect how you feel or conversations you've had internally? Let me know down in the comments, because I can pretty much guarantee that you won't be alone. You see, many people face a huge problem when it's time to start decluttering. Their identity and their possessions are in an unhealthy relationship. And this fact is often ignored in favor of comfort, familiarity, and routine. We'd rather not disrupt what we've grown accustomed to. It's what I know, we say. However, an unhealthy relationship, regardless of who's involved, is an unhealthy relationship. And for things to be different, healthier, better, disruption is more than necessary. Now, the unpleasant thing about causing disruption to your comfort, familiarity, and routine is that it's not easy. And it can sometimes ensue a whirlwind of discomfort, anxiety, sometimes worry and fear, and deep thought about how to move forward. And so before we talk about how to do this, I want to take a few steps back and address the identity crisis that many of us are facing because of our decluttering. And if this is you, I want to encourage you to download my core values worksheet and get crystal clear on what you value. This is because the person who understands what they value understands who they are and what's important to them. And more importantly, who they're not and what's not important to them. You see, a firm understanding of your values leads to a confident identity, one that cannot easily be influenced or changed by outside forces, especially your possessions. All right? I digress. Now let's have some fun and start causing disruption, starting with your comfort. Here's the current state you're likely experiencing. You probably feel comforted and whole by your clutter. And this is because when you look around your home, you see a reflection of you and you don't want to lose that. And I get it, right? I felt comfortable with my clutter at one point as well. However, when I made a commitment to this journey, I quickly realized that the path ahead of me was going to challenge my comfort big time. And I wasn't wrong. So if you're worried about your comfort and losing that reflection of who you are in your home, then I want to share something with you. And I want to say that it's okay, right? It's okay that you feel that way. And I get it. I felt that way also. Now, here's the future state that I want you to consider. If you pare down your possessions by removing everything unnecessary, the distractions, the clutter, the duplicate items, and anything else that's getting in the way. I mean, you have an idea of what you're not using and what you don't need. So trust yourself on that, all right? But if you pare down your possessions and select a limited number of your favorite items to display, you may find that that becomes a better representation of who you are than the current state of your home, which is cluttered. This is because those unique pieces that truly reflect who you are will be more prominent with space between them. See, when there's a lot going on in a room, your eye doesn't know where to land. And there's so many things to focus on that it doesn't focus on anything at all. But when you design your room or your home around a few focal points or your favorite pieces, then it becomes easier to read and get an idea of who you are. And therefore, those items can be seen, appreciated, and used by you. For example, I have this coffee table book on display behind me in the corner there. Not sure if you can see it. I quit my corporate job in October of last year, October 2023, to bet on myself. And my goal is to build my business with integrity and intentionally. And so this coffee table book, The Kinfolk Entrepreneur, Ideas for Meaningful Work, is a reflection of me. And so we have it on display in our home. Another example is this Clips speaker that we have sitting out in our living area. And this is meaningful to my wife and I because it reminds us of our wedding. We used it at our wedding. But it also reflects the fact that we enjoy listening to music, specifically chill, jazzy music that we can really hang out and vibe to. And now that we have a toddler who likes to jump around and dance as well, we've been able to create some fun memories as a family, hanging out, listening to music, and dancing. So if you're looking for a place to start, consider the following to help you pare down your possessions. The first thing is to follow a decision-making formula. Now, I have a formula of my own that I follow and that I've used to help me declutter, and it's received some praise from other people here in this community. So if you want to check it out and possibly adopt it for yourself to help you declutter, just go to ronaldlbanks.com/decisions and you can read about it there. The next thing is to consider the vision you have for your life beyond decluttering. So what do you want from this journey other than a clutter-free home? That's important. The next thing is to lean into showcasing pieces throughout your home that you find beautiful and meaningful. Decluttering isn't about stripping away your life. It's about creating your life. And that includes creating your home to be a reflection, a true reflection of who you are. And then the last thing is to ignore other people's opinion. Opinions are like ears. Everybody has a couple. And if you listen to everyone, then your home, your clutter-free environment will start to become a reflection of them rather than you. And that's the last thing you want. Okay, let's move on to disrupting familiarity. And in my opinion, this is where many people start to hesitate and get stuck on their journey, including myself. And I want to encourage you to keep pushing forward and continue to declutter your life. Here's the current state you're likely experiencing. There are two ways that we can look at this. And the first is your fantasy self. So an idea that you have of yourself, but you never get to do it. So for example, a hobby that you have all the supplies for, but you never do it. An instrument you never play, cookware you never use, clothes you never wear, etc. All in the name of one day, but one day never comes. And to be honest with you, I'm going to challenge the way you think, but my hope is that this message hits home for you the same way it has for me. Now, with that said, the first point that I have for why we struggle with letting go as minimalists is because we still see things and items as the way we imagine them to be instead of for what they actually are. I shared a video a while back talking about the importance of breaking up with your fantasy self, and this idea has a direct connection to this first struggle that I'm talking about here. See, when we look at things from the perspective of what we imagine, that's our fantasy self talking, right? For example, we would tell ourselves things like, this item is something that I've always saw myself using, or, I've been meaning to wear this again, right? Or if it's a relationship, you would say something like, I can't see myself without you. But the reality is you haven't worn or used this item in years. And honestly, you forgot you even had it. But the only reason you found it is because you were actually looking for something else, right? So why do you need it? The reality is you still have you and your life, regardless of that relationship. See, as we're decluttering all aspects of our lives, physically, mentally, and emotionally, I want to encourage you to start looking at things and to start thinking about things from the perspective of what they actually are, instead of what you imagine them to be. That way you can actually start letting go during this decluttering process. The second way that we can look at this is from the perspective of how you grew up. Maybe you didn't grow up with a whole lot of stuff. And now in this current season of your life, you're accumulating more to make up for what you didn't have in the past. And this behavior could be as straightforward as a bad habit. Maybe you just shop too much, or you have the habit of justifying your worth based on the items you own, or it could be something much more severe and deeper than that, but I'll leave that for you to decide. Now, the future state that I encourage you to consider is this. Your self-talk and the habits you've developed and the beliefs that you have as a result of that is contributing to the clutter you have in your life. And it's one of the reasons why it's hard for you to let go. And so the goal is to change how you talk to yourself. And I want to encourage you to give one of these 3 exercises a try. The first thing is to write about it. Consider keeping a log of self-reflection. Write about where you are in this current season of your life, your values, and how closely they are aligned with your current reality, and then use the patterns that you want to cover to kickstart a behavior change. The second thing is to shift from a scarcity to an abundance mindset. And this is easier said than done, I know. But the first step is to start strengthening your trust in an abundance mindset. And you can do this by recognizing abundance in past life experiences. You see, developing an abundance mindset requires faith that there is always enough. And like I said, this is hard to do if you're coming from a scarcity mindset. And so the best proof is in personal experience. So I want to encourage you to think back over your life and look for moments of abundance in your past. There may have been a ton of them, there may have been few of them, but there were some of them. Reflect on those moments and then use that as proof for yourself. And then begin to strengthen your trust and faith that there's always enough. And then the last thing here is to talk to a professional. If your self-talk is so deeply rooted that you don't feel comfortable navigating it on your own, then please talk to a professional, someone you can trust, someone you can open up to, because they have the tools to really help you break through that, and more tools, quite frankly, than I can offer you here through this video. All right, now let's talk about disrupting your routine. Here's the current state that you're likely experiencing. Do you feel overwhelmed by your to-do list? Do you find yourself constantly organizing and cleaning and doing the laundry? Raise your hand in the comments if this sounds like your life. See, it can be frustrating when your to-do list seems never ending and takes up all your time. Now, I'm sure you can agree that at the end of the day, no matter how long your to-do list grows and how stressed out you become because of it, all you want is the time to prioritize what you care about. And so here's the future state that I want you to consider and develop a healthy obsession for. Imagine how different things would be if you can clean the house faster, do the laundry in fewer loads, save money on expenses, and so many other things. You would have the time to prioritize your values, put your family first, and pursue a more meaningful career if that's your goal. And so in order to make this your reality, you have to take the necessary steps to declutter your life. And that involves not allowing your identity to become a barrier to decluttering. You are not your stuff. All right. Here are some next steps that I want you to take right now. Number 1 is to identify your core values. Remember, when you understand what you value, it means you know who you are and what's important to you, and that can only help you declutter your life. Number 2 is to disrupt your comfort and familiarity with your clutter. You have to. Number 3 is to change your self-talk. Again, remember, what you believe becomes what you speak, and what you speak becomes your reality. Number 4 is to develop a new routine. I know you're tired of that long to-do list and endless chores around the house. You got to make a change. And then number 5 is to follow a decluttering process that will not overwhelm you. All right? If you need help, my door is open. Keep growing towards clarity, my friend. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.